Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the second annual TeCH Homecoming event as part of the fifth annual TeCH Week YQG, spearheaded by TeCH Alliance. Today's event is in partnership with our friends at Invest Windsor Essex and Chatham-Kent Economic Development. I see a few of them on the event today, so thank you so much for your partnership and for some of the introductions you made to these great panelists today. While this event is virtual, we would like to respectfully acknowledge that the land on which we gather today is the traditional territories of the Three Fire Confederacies of First Nations, comprised of the Ojibwe, the Odawa, and the Potawatomi peoples. We are grateful to work, live, and learn in this area. So over the next 60 minutes, we are bringing together Windsor and Chatham-area expats, former residents, and newcomers to reconnect and reinvest in the place they once called home or have recently called home, and join in a discussion similar to last year on how do we turn this region into a hub of innovation. So let me introduce myself, Yvonne Paglione, President and CEO of TeCH Alliance, and I get the pleasure of once again being your moderator and host for this annual TeCH Homecoming event. For those who are new to TeCH Alliance, we are one of 17 regional innovation centers funded by the province of Ontario, and we're here to help entrepreneurs. We help them with business services, training, mentorship, strategic connections to help bring new ideas to market, scale to the next level, and build a dynamic culture of innovation in the community. I am, again, beyond thrilled to be participating today, along with our event producer and TeCH Week leader, Shreya Shah. So please give her a big shout out. And feel free, we're going to make this session interactive. So in the chat feature to your right, feel free to share where you're joining us from. If you're joining us from Windsor, Essex, Chatham-Kent, or even anywhere else in the world, please feel free to share that so we know where everyone's coming from. So a bit of logistics before we get started. If you want to join the conversation or the chat, again, look to the right of your screen and you'll see a chat feature. Feel free just to put any content or, again, engage in the conversation today. If you have a question for our panelists, you can click the Q&A section and you can put in a question anonymously and even upvote any of the questions. If you want to enlarge any of the speakers, all you got to do is click the expand window button at the bottom of your screen. And if you want, you can actually change your business card, your digital business card. If you go to the top of your screen, you'll see an icon. You can click that and you can actually update your profile. And for those interested in connecting with others, you can actually click their profile and learn more about them. And finally, we realize that perhaps you're not able to attend the full session or people are missing this. We're going to record it. So expect a video file and all the relevant links in a follow-up email later next week. So today's event comes on the heel of two monster investments. Yesterday's $5 billion electric vehicle battery manufacturing plant in Windsor, Essex, and a coming soon massive plant to the Chatham-Kent region. Details still to be determined, but again, jobs are coming to the area. I've spent about a decade in the regional innovation and technology community, and I can truly tell you I've never been more excited about our future. As a local MP, Eric Kuzmarczyk, said so perfectly yesterday, we build things better than anyone else in the world, and I think we can actually interchange that build world with things like grow. Although we know the work is never going to stop, there's always things that we can do, and we've always got to be forward looking. I truly believe that the future is bright for this region, and we're going to see a lot of what's happening today and learn from some of former residents, newcomers, and expats on what we can take from them in helping build our community. To help guide today's TeCH Homecoming conversation, we have structured into 4 themes. So we're going to talk about innovation, entrepreneurship, location, future economy, and talent. A lot of this pulling from the Windsor Essex Economic Development strategy called Windsor Works. And now we're going to get things started because I know everyone's eager to hear from our awesome panelists. So for the panelists, as I introduce you, feel free to turn on your camera and your mic. And let's get started. So these are former residents. Again, they're former expats. They're newcomers, and they are Canadian technology and innovation leaders. So first up, we have Joel Paglioni, founder of Oak Bottle and Picks. He's an alumni of the University of Windsor, now living not today in sunny Miami, but cloudy Miami. He's an accomplished CPG business leader with executive experience in retailers like Walgreens and Sears. He's co-authored the definitive book on the art and science of barrel aging wine and spirits, founder of Oak Bottle and Picks. Welcome, Joel. Nice to see you.
You too. Thanks for having me.
Yes. All right. Next up, we have Jasen Sams. He is the vice president, Rocket Innovation Studio. You've probably seen their billboards all across town if you've been traveling in Windsor, Essex. This is a new tech startup, a growing tech startup in the region. Jasen began his journey in the tech sector over 10 years ago, where he applied as an internship in a company I'm sure you've heard of, Quicken Loans, where he was asked to stay on as a business analyst focused on market technology. Eventually transitioning from his execution role to leadership role, Jasen ended up leading the master's data management strategy around operational data and helped stand up the various pillars of data intelligence that set the data strategy foundation that they sit on today. And I'm sure Jasen's going to talk a bit more about that. He is Michigan born, but holds a passion for Windsor and the concept of turning the city into a new tech hub for Canada. Jasen, a big, big welcome.
Thank you. Very happy to be here today.
Yes. All right. Next up, Jenny DeForno. She is the talent director of OMERS Ventures, a very, very proud Chatham-Kent resident now living in beautiful Toronto, Ontario. In her role as head of talent at OMERS Ventures, Jenny works closely with the senior leadership and operation teams of their portfolio companies, which I can imagine is hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, to drive the talent and people strategies that support scale and growth. Jenny joined OMERS Ventures in 2019. Jenny brings 20 years of experience creating talent strategies and programs that build award-winning cultures. The breadth of her experience covers both large enterprise organizations as well as startups, supporting through multiple funding rounds, debt financing, mergers and acquisitions, and beyond. Prior to joining OMERS Ventures, Jenny worked in several HR leadership roles at the top executive search firms, as well as companies such as Monera Solutions and Infotech Research Group. And most recently, Jenny spent the last several years as part of the founding team at Canadian fintech startup Nest Wealth. Jenny lives in Toronto and holds a degree in political studies at Queen's University, but grew up in Chatham and loves every chance she has to come back and visit family and friends, including her wonderful dad. So wonderful to see you, Jenny. So happy to have you here.
Thanks so much for having me. Happy to be part of the discussion.
Yes, and last but not least, Matt Lucid, Senior Product Manager of Wrapbook, a former resident of Ridgetown, now living in Waterloo, Ontario. If you're in the tech scene, you know Waterloo quite well. Matt was born and raised in Ridgetown. He attained a computer engineering degree from the University of Toronto and held various product and project management positions at tech companies throughout his career. I'm sure you've heard of these companies: BlackBerry and D2L. Desire to learn to anchors in the Waterloo region. He presently helping Wrapbook, which is a fintech startup in the entertainment industry, to help scale their production, to help production companies focus on creating stunning content. Outside of work, Matt spends his time with family in Waterloo, volunteers at the Y, and helps out with environmental causes. Matt, so nice to have you today.
Thanks for having me.
And interesting enough, we have 3 individuals out of 4 who have a fintech background. So this was not planned, but very interesting. So there could be a really great discussion that happens online with Jasen, Matt, and Jenny having that fintech background. So a big welcome, please, everyone in the chat, give an awesome welcome back and welcome to the region, to these awesome panelists. We're going to jump right in. Again, let's make this interactive. Feel free to discuss it. I already see a great discussion happening in the chat already. So for those of you who know Windsor, we are known for pizza. So our icebreaker question. And I know Chatham has a history of pizza too, with I think the invention of the Hawaiian pizza, one of my favorites. Yes, pineapple should be on pizza. I want to hear, what is your go-to Windsor style or Chatham style pizza? We'll start with Joel. And I know your family knows pizza well too, with the winery.
Yeah, I was going to plug the winery, but
Go for it.
Paglioni Estate Winery is the best pizza in town. But I would say Capri or Naples are my go-to, definitely.
Okay, any toppings?
I'm a pepperoni guy. Simple.
Okay, simple. Jasen, you're coming from us, Detroit, which we know recently got the award for best country pizza. So coming to Windsor, can you say Windsor's better than Detroit?
Ooh,
Pizza?
I'm still working on it. I think I'm
Okay.
exploring all the options. I've had Capri, I've had the sliced pepperoni. First, I was like, "Whoa, what is this?" But I enjoyed it. I think I'm a big fan, so I think I need to start testing the rest of the waters here, and maybe I'll have an answer by the end of this year.
Awesome. So for those joining us, feel free to give Jasen some great Windsor examples. So you already know you need to check out Paglioni Estate Winery. Awesome music, great sangria, awesome place to check it out in the spring and summer. Jenny, how about yourself? I'm not sure if you're a big pizza lover, but any Windsor favorites or Chatham favorites?
So I'm not a pizza lover, really, although Descendant style pizza, which is a Detroit style pizza, has a Jaffna, which is a roti-based pizza here in Toronto, which is fantastic. But having said that, when I'm in Windsor, it's tunnel barbecue for me. Like that is just so ingrained in my memory. Don't judge me. I love the tunnel barbecue, and the Satellite had great Mediterranean pizza in Chatham-Kent. So those are two pizza places that would stand out for me.
Awesome. Thanks, Jenny. And Matt, I'm not sure in the last time you've come back to the region, but any favorites for yourself? And it doesn't have to be pizza. I realize not everyone is a pizza lover like me.
Yeah, I guess I'll give my support to Wayne's Pizza in Blenheim, mainly because I grew up with them and stuff like that. And the high school kids over in Blenheim really like it. I mean, for me, back in the day, I mean, we used to always go to Godfather's after we went to the bar, but that's a different era of my life.
Jenny's shaking her head, so I feel like
Godfather's Pizza. Yeah, that was an institution way back when.
Awesome. So we're going to get into it. I realize I did share your bios, but I wanted just to give everyone a quick moment just to really briefly discuss your background, anything I missed, but really talk about the Windsor Essex or Chatham-Kent as you knew it. So I'm going to start. I'll start off with Joel again. Anything I missed in your bio about yourself, and kind of what do you remember? Windsor Essex as you knew it, Joel.
Other than I'm a proud, resident of Kingsville, Leamington too. So I think those two regions are really important in our region. The region I remember is it was a social region. It was a place where people went to have fun and work hard. So this is a perfect combination of play hard, work hard. And I think that summarizes what I remember about Windsor, Essex, Leamington, Kingsville, Chatham. My upbringing was a good era for the region. We had the big three humming. We had Heinz and Leamington humming. We had the producers of the greenhouses growing, literally and figuratively. We had International Truck and Engine Corporation in Chatham booming, and the region was exploding. So I hope with the news yesterday is amazing news that we get back to that, and I'm excited to see what happens.
Awesome. And I'm going to move to Jasen. Jasen, you're coming to us from Detroit. You are a commuter, but a new startup. I'm curious, before someone came to your desk and says, "Hey, we're opening this new thing in Canada," what did you know about Windsor before you made the leap?
Yeah, actually, my great grandmother lived in Tecumseh, so I used to travel over quite a bit with family to come and visit. So had a little bit of a taste early on, and kind of opened my eyes to the area. And then actually working at Quicken Loans for many years, I've had a couple of different Canadian team members that have rolled up to me, and I've had chances to cross the border, come over and have dinner, go and have drinks and all that fun stuff. So I had a little bit of taste of the area, but definitely nothing like what I'm learning today. Definitely something that I, even this morning, had a chance to meet with city council member to learn a little bit more about the city, learning more from our team members every day, and definitely see the opportunity that this area has from a talent perspective, from an international attention, from the great colleges and universities. So I believe this area has a lot of potential in the next 5 to 10 years too. So excited to see what I've seen in the past, and I also see it trending towards like what we've seen in cities like Detroit and others too.
Yeah, and we'll dive into a little bit of that, Jasen. I'll be leaning on you on some comment. Was there anything that was really shocking when you came over here?
So one of the major things was, I think, the pizza aspect, obviously, too. Like once we started getting this, one of the first conversation pieces that happens typically when we're meeting new people. And I had a lot of questions about the pizza chain and how that went against Little Caesars and everything there too. So a lot of info around just the culture and the food and the people too, which I think was very eye-opening.
Awesome, awesome. So we're going to move to Jenny. Jenny, so what is, and I realize again, Matt and Jenny, you likely go back to visit, but what do you remember as Chatham-Kent as you knew it?
Gosh, you know what? It was a really great place to grow up, right? It was like, I just remember all of this freedom and all of this, you could be at the lake in 15 minutes in one direction and 20 minutes the other direction. It was booming. The car and manufacturing sectors were booming. Agriculture was booming. All of those sorts of things. I lived there in the heyday. They opened the Judy LaMarche building, which was a big thing in southwestern Ontario in Chatham. And going to Windsor was like a big trip out, and family and friends in Leamington and Amherstburg. And so I have nothing but the greatest of memories from sort of my childhood there. So I was lucky to get those heydays, but before I left.
Awesome. And I know Matthew Giffith is joining us from Chatham-Kent region. Also just moved to the region just before the pandemic. So so Jenny and Matt, you'll have to share with Matt some places on where to go. And Matt, how about yourself? I'm not sure again how long it's been since you've left the Ridgetown, but how do you remember the region?
Yeah, I have great memories of it. I mean, everyone knew everyone. I mean, that's good and that's bad. But I mean, in a world, not soapboxy, but I mean, in a world that's disconnected, I mean, to know people, to know their kids, know their parents and stuff like that was good. I like that aspect. Second thing I remember is, I mean, people worked hard. And I mean, it was some of the jobs I did, but I mean, I was in cornfields. I did tobacco, I mean, that hurt. Those kinds of jobs, and people worked hard, but then the balance on that was there was a lot of leisure. Like Jenny, you talking about the lake. I mean, I spent so much time with friends in my teen years, but family growing up and stuff like that out at Lake Erie. Hey, we're going down to Rondeau, we're going down to 4th Street, wherever it was, as far as those get-togethers. And I mean, that was a lot of fun.
I agree, the hardworking aspect. And I realize our partners here are two economic development corporations. And I know the team at Chatham-Kent Economic Development, and I've seen how hard they work to continue to bring business and talent. And I actually have to give a kudos to Chatham. They have a really good welcome back, a marketing campaign aimed at acknowledging those who have come back to the region and new to the region. So a really cool thing that's come out of COVID, which again, I'm really excited to tackle the talent, the big T word. And I know Jenny's got a lot of expertise there. So we're going to start things off with our first theme here on location. And Jasen, I'm going to kind of pick on you a little bit on this one. Last Tech Homecoming, we actually brought in a counterpart of Edison Financial, Bechem, joined us. But, I think pretty much everyone knows, the Windsor-Detroit relationship, right? We need to look at this as a regional thing. And I think the same applies to bringing in Chatham-Kent, right? When Detroit does well, Windsor does well. When Windsor does well, Chatham does well. And I think we have this really unique region. And when we did the Amazon H2Q bid, it opened the eyes, the binational bid, it really opened the eyes of Canada's talent, right? Our really forward immigration policies. So I'm curious for Jasen, for you, a great successful nearshoring. Windsor Essex, has it been working for Rocket Innovation Studio? We've seen your billboards. We're hearing about the growth. No one's actually been into that beautiful building yet. But tell us more about what's working and how other maybe, U.S. startups could look at Windsor, Chatham to grow their Canadian presence.
Absolutely. I think in short, the answer is it is working, and we're very happy and pleased with kind of the investments that we've made here. I think one, like you said, definitely from that 2017 bid, it opened up our eyes a little while ago around these opportunities. And initially, we really set out wanting to be able to, one, bridge the gap between the two countries, start finding partnerships in the local area to start growing the brand, and then 3, start looking at our local universities and colleges and other community partners to start creating a talent pipeline. And luckily, we saw a lot of great things as we came over. We saw, one, that the talent market that was already established from a tech perspective was very healthy and something that we could attract talent from. 2, we started establishing internship and co-op programs to make sure that we were getting the next level of future talent to come in. And then we started doing deeper level things, especially with University of Windsor and others, where we have specified programs where we do workshops with university graduate students to make sure that not only are they getting the knowledge that they need from the university, but they're getting that professional expertise to take them to the next level. And what we're seeing is it's working out. We're getting people that are attracted to something new here in Windsor. I believe this environment that we've built here in this new building, like you mentioned, we have 18,000 square feet down here in downtown. That's all brand new, renovated with high-tech equipment and furniture. I think this is just a change for folks that are in the area, and people like it and want it. But we've also saw a lot of success as well, even outside of the area too, and just people being more excited, even question marks maybe originally of like, wow, there's a big tech company in Windsor. What's going on? Let's learn more. And then we've attracted a lot of folks from the GTA who have relocated down to Windsor. And we're starting to see attention too from different provinces. And I think it's bringing a lot of attention and kind of a really attraction to the area.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's been great to kind of follow the growth. And I'm curious, and I realize Joel, Matt, and Jenny, you've probably had interactions with US, whether it's through clients or other opportunities. Is there anything we can learn from our US neighbors? I think there are, I see Detroit very closely, but anything you'd like to share on that? Jenny.
Go ahead,
yes.
Jenny.
Okay, who's going to jump in first?
Yeah.
You know what? In my role, I'm really lucky because I support our European operations and our US operations as well. And there's a couple of things that stand out to me, and one of them might seem like really superficial, but pretty easy to solve, and that is we don't do a lot in Southwestern Ontario to shout out these really fantastic and exciting stories, right? Silicon Valley, like before they make it there, these, you look at startups who have 12 people and you would think they have 100 people, right? And that they're going gangbusters. And it's because of the hype that's built. And somehow there is this restraint in Southwestern Ontario in that Windsor Chatham corridor where almost like a tall poppy syndrome, right? Where no one wants to seem too good or too great. And we need a much more concerted effort to actually shout from the mountaintops and create that momentum on multiple media and social channels to grab the attention, because it's exactly as Jasen said, once someone starts to garner that level of success, people in other regions start to go, oh, hold on a second. What's happening there? What's going on in Windsor? Maybe I should look into that. Maybe Windsor is someplace we could be, so like that is just such a low hanging fruit that I think if the region just got a little bit more coordinated and was really about cheering on those companies and really finding the right mediums to sort of accelerate that out, I think would be really hugely impactful. Sometimes you just got to talk it and fake it till you make it, right? And, keep shouting out these stories so that the wheel starts flying and people start paying attention.
I couldn't
Jenny,
agree
I
more.
laughed because I knew Joel was going to chime in here because we had a chance to talk with Joel during our Founders Week a few months ago. And Joel, you were talking a lot about this, about the importance of storytelling and branding. So I'll let you
huge.
take it over.
No, I fully wholeheartedly agree with what Jenny said. I think it's a blessing and a curse, right? Canadians, I've been in the US now for over 15 years. And one thing amazing about Canadians is that we're so humble. There is I think that there's a culture of trying to make sure that you don't come across too confident, too conceited and proud. And I think I think that the region could learn from the States in that we can do that in our own way as Canadians. We can be proud, be confident, and talk about our successes more and still maintain a respect and a politeness about it. I think there's a lot of Canadian companies that are not touting the fact that they're from Canada enough. Look at Shopify. Just look at Shopify.
Mm-hmm.
Shopify is the most important e-commerce platform in the world. And why are we not hearing more about the fact that it's in Toronto? Lululemon changed the face of apparel completely.
Mm-hmm.
Why are we not hearing more about Lululemon being from Vancouver? And I can go on and on. I mean, the biggest example of this is BlackBerry and RIM. They were at the beginning stages of the smartphone, and yet they were so humble about it that they lost their way. And there's probably a lot of other reasons, but I just believe we could learn a lot from our American partners, our American friends, in that side of things, while still maintaining a Canadian, inherent respect and politeness about it.
I'm laughing in the chat. There are some people who also did not know Shopify and Lululemon were Canadian. So, and there's many others, right, that I think people would be really surprised to know that they have Canadian roots. We'll kind of move forward because I do want to, I think I'd like to kind of give Jenny and Matt some chances. So we're going to move on to the innovation entrepreneurship theme. And interesting enough, very timely, there was a New York Times article that just came out, and I would imagine Matt and Jenny, you might have seen it in the group. It was titled Toronto, the quietly booming tech town. And in there, it talked about, again, the talent, all the companies moving there, spinning off from research being done in artificial intelligence. And I really would love, Windsor, Essex, Chatham-Kent, great entrepreneurs. I can't speak for Chatham-Kent exactly on the entrepreneurship rate, but I know we're going to get new census data, but we tend to have a lower rate of entrepreneurship here in the region. And I'd love to just get maybe, again, I'm actually also interested in Joel's point, as Miami is an upcoming tech hub, and Jasen as well. Perhaps we'll start with Waterloo, the Toronto Waterloo corridor. What makes this work? It's coined the Silicon Valley of Canada. I know a lot of our KW awesome friends don't like that terminology, but Matt and Jenny, what is the magic sauce that you saw? And Matt, maybe I'll start with you. You worked at BlackBerry, desire to learn, one of the major successes. Now you've got Apply Board and so on and so on. What did you see? Like, tell us about that experience, and maybe what can we learn from what that magic sauce perhaps that they have there?
Yeah, I don't know if I can answer that, but I'll give you my experience. And part of the reason I went to Toronto because I needed the opposite of Ridgetown. That's me as an 18-year-old kid. But I went to, and it goes to the first point, which is how do we tell our story and what do people think of us, whether we're talking about Windsor or Chatham-Kent. So I moved to Waterloo, and I had been there a total of one time before I moved there. And that was Oktoberfest, and I only remember part of it. So I will say that I moved there on reputation, and the reputation for the companies that were there and the culture of that town. And then when I got there, I didn't even have a job there. My job was still in Toronto. But it was, there are all these opportunities and opportunities for learning, especially when I think about, I'm in a different point in my career. I don't know if I'm on the back half. We'll see how my investments do. But I will say that in the beginning, there were all these opportunities with peer-to-peers and stuff like that, which is so low cost. You're buying a couple jugs of coffee for people, and there's a space, and you're trying to grab, hey, you're a product manager, you're going to do a session for an hour on road mapping so that we can all learn from it. That's how you do it at Tech Savvy or at whatever company it is kind of there. And I used to go to the product management ones, and I went to the project management ones, and what that fostered was like what we want in general, which is conversations between two people. Hey, I have this idea for this company, or I'm thinking about leaving BlackBerry, or I'm thinking about leaving this place. That's how you do that. Or even the person we were talking to in the room beforehand, Sinead, talking about React or what sort of tech stack. It's bringing those people together that have a shared interest in whatever vocation it is or how to start a company and stuff like that. The other thing that I really found was big was helping small. So BlackBerry, I mean, we did a lot of good things and it imploded and it's doing all right now. But I mean, the thing is it really fostered that innovation and fostered startups there. And actually, when BlackBerry got resized to what it is today, people were like, oh, this is awful, you know? And it's like, but is it? Like a lot of those people started other companies. And a lot of those companies are doing really, really well. So it's sort of like, and I mean, I'll give a little example of, oh, a bunch of companies in Waterloo were moving to downtown Kitchener, we're moving to Cambridge, and everyone's like, this is bad. And it's like, it's not at all. Like, it's just growing the whole pie more as we go around. But what I found was those opportunities to get people together, to talk about things. I mean, they're low cost and the conversations sort of run themselves. Space for getting together, lunch and learns, all of that kind of thing. And then people start sharing ideas and it builds upon it. But then the other thing for me moving there, I'll just say this and then turn it over to you, Jenny, was it's the reputation and the story. Because I mean, people have a story in their mind of what Chatham is or what Windsor is and stuff like that. And it's like, how do we put a different narrative out there and try not to be as humble and try and say, hey, this is what we are. Hey, this is about being on the lake. This is about work hard, play hard. This is about, you know, salt of the earth people, whatever the story is we want to do. And I mean, then it starts to attract people and then people are spreading ideas and stuff like that. So that's been my experience. And it's been cool with Waterloo and Toronto working together. It's always fun. I've worked for a lot of companies now that have an office in each place. And it is fun when the other office is coming down to meet you and sharing those ideas. Or for me and a couple buddies, couple work buddies, driving up to Toronto together, you're talking the whole time, you're talking about family, you're talking about kids, you're talking about your business, you're talking about something you read about innovation or whatever, and it just happens. And that's the drive there, the drive back. And it's just been, and some people in different points in their career are saying, Waterloo's not big enough for me, I'm moving to Toronto, but I can stay with the company. And it's sort of like, it's been really interesting. Jenny, what do you think? Oh, go ahead. Sorry, Yvonne.
I was just going to make one comment before kind of just sharing it to the group. Love that you said peer-to-peer group and love that you talk about spaces. So I think having spent 10 years into the ecosystem, one of the things that's missing, Chatham actually got a wonderful innovation space called Soar Innovation a number of years ago. And obviously pandemic has kind of put a hold to that. So kudos to that community. But in Windsor, Essex, we really lacked a place to call tech home. And I've really, I found that to be a detriment in terms of building community, right? Innovation is place-based. So the good news to share is the University of Windsor has purchased the Windsor Star building downtown at 300 Willette with the intention of transforming that into a technology innovation hub. Details coming, but when we talk about exactly a huge, I think, win for the region. And again, I just love that you said that, Matt. So I'm going to stop there and maybe just open it up to Jenny and the rest of the team.
Yeah, I'll jump in really quickly. I think, Matt, I couldn't agree more. And I can kind of touch upon that a little and allow. First, even before that, though, that I would go back to and mention is we should try to actually keep talent. When I was growing up, there wasn't an opportunity to stay if I wanted to do the work I wanted to do. And if I had the ambitions that I had, I couldn't see a path forward while staying in my community, right? And so after university, I wasn't coming back home. It wasn't part of even the dialogue. And so starting programs earlier, like with high schools and with the universities and the colleges in the area, right? Like, how do you get into the curriculum? How do you get the entrepreneurial landscape into the curriculum? How do you develop programs there? All of the big cities have those. Like Ryerson has a DMZ space, which is totally focused on startups and things like that, for as one example. And so one thing that I would say to the community is, like, start earlier so people don't even think about leaving, or at least they know if they leave for a little bit that there is a clear opportunity to come home and there's a clear path home. So that's kind of first. And then the other thing is, exactly as Matt said, you need to create community. A community is key to innovation, right? Like, it is innovation doesn't happen without collaboration, and you've got to create the space for that. And that needs to be physical. It can't be just online. And so it means space, but it also means programming, that ties into that community and is valuable to that community. So you can't just say, hey, go meet in this coffee shop, but where you can, people can't be what they can't see, and people can't imagine ideas, that they haven't had, an opportunity and ability to socialize. The other thing that I would say is, the community needs to swing for some big wins, right? And attracting just this really major announcement into the area, because, the interesting thing about RIM, the interesting thing about PayPal down in the US that we're all familiar with, the interesting thing about Shopify, which Shopify was an OMERS Ventures invested company, as was D2L. Is that these then have spin-offs, right? Just as Matt said, now they invest and they start the next companies, but they're also your next angel investors in the ecosystem. And so you need to kind of get that sort of flywheel happening. And in angel investing, right? I still don't hear much of it in Southwestern Ontario. How are those investing mechanisms happening at that early stage with those $5,000, $10,000, $25,000 checks? How would you engage with it? Who are the angel investment groups? Are they looking local in terms of where to put and attract their dollars? And also, when you look at community, how do you structure that? And how do you structure the programming, in terms of an incubator or accelerator framework, right? That has the knowledge either to tap into government programming or tap into, other programming that might exist elsewhere to accelerate sort of the learnings. So there's all of these steps that you need to take, and one alone is not going to solve it, but it has to be much more systems thinking in terms of how you pull all those constituent pieces together to create the platform for growth.
Yeah, and I realized talking to this group, we can do a better job as alumni associations, as economic, to go back to connect with you, right? So we've got these new spaces. We do have an angel group here, again, still getting its wings, but doing, making some investments. We're hoping to make some more news in the near future on other opportunities to bring capital to companies. But, Matt and Jenny, you talked about that anchor, right? And in that New York Times article, it basically said you need anchor companies that can provide a transformative impact. Entrepreneurs come from these companies and start their own. And I think BlackBerry, look what BlackBerry did. Unfortunately, when they kind of went down, all that talent was still in the area. A lot of them started their own companies. Others fueled the other startups. I mean, that's how Silicon Valley got its start, right? PayPal, the PayPal mafia, as they say, right? They made it big and then all started their own, VC or investment term. So I'm going to leave Jasen and Joel. Any comments on that too? And Joel, feel free to speak to, you're an entrepreneur yourself. How do we build more entrepreneurs here in the region?
I think, Yvonne, there's two things I want to say here that are important. One, I think we need to ensure that we keep the families and their kids in the region. I think what's important about Windsor, Essex is that it has to be a fun place for people to grow and have their kids stay. And we've sort of tried to change our region into something that it's not. And we need to embrace what it is. I've lived in the States, again, for 15 years. Everyone I talk to in Chicago, Ohio, Florida, if I mention Windsor, they say, I have been there for a drink. I've had some of the best times of my life when I was a kid over there. And there's nothing negative about that. We sort of, made that sound like it's a bad thing to have fun in our region. We have a 19-year drinking age. We had amazing nightlife and restaurants. Let's stick to what we are good at. This is a region with a history of alcohol. Look at Al Capone, using Walkerville, Windsor to bring alcohol across the states during Prohibition. The Walkerville distillery region, I'm really excited about because that's bringing it back to our core. So, embracing what we are, number one. Number two, the best entrepreneurs are the ones that can iterate. The best entrepreneurs are the ones that are able to iterate. So in my opinion, when you look at the States, I can't compare to Toronto, Waterloo, but I can compare to Chicago and Miami. And what we do here in the States better than I think we do in smaller regions in Canada is we allow small businesses to test, to iterate, to refine and filter and test and test and test. And so what I mean by that is there's this thing called Foodie in Chicago, where every corporate office at lunchtime has a table set up, and they rotate the small restaurants to come in and sell their food at lunch. Why can't we do that for every single corporate office in Windsor? Not a food truck. We're talking about a table inside in the offices. Number one. Number two, in the malls here, Aventura Mall, every Saturday, every Sunday, they have a marketplace for small businesses to come and sell their stuff. Mm-hmm. That could be in the center aisles of Windsor Mall, Devonshire Mall, and other malls. And I think that there needs to be more food incubators and test kitchens. Our region is full of restaurant hospitality entrepreneurs. The problem with that is, though, that the risk of getting into business is very high. The cost of it is extremely high. Whereas if you allow these small businesses to test and market it as a test, not as a small embarrassing table at a mall, but as a pop-up, as a way to test the market before they invest in a restaurant, we'll see more and more businesses incubate there, and they'll stay there. So I think that we need to focus on it in creating these types of environments. I think the best entrepreneurs in Windsor are the ones that are doing D2C, because you can test and it's very low risk. You can build an online shop and sell things out of your house and ship it. In Canada, unfortunately, it's hard to ship across the border, but that only goes so far because the population there it's not dense enough to really make a ton of money. So I think service-based industries, you need to be able to test, create more incubators, create more test kitchens, co-ops, shared kitchens, and allow more businesses to. We should be seeing every Saturday and every Sunday on every corner a farmers market. We are the largest producers of produce in all of North America. Leamington is the largest producer of produce in all of North America. I go to any grocery store in Miami and Chicago, it says made in Kingsville. Tomatoes, cucumbers. Mm-hmm. Why are there not more farmers markets on every parking lot that's vacant in Windsor, Essex? So we need to change the thought process, and I hope that the leadership there does that.
Yeah, no, we've got, I know there's there's been that big kind of storm of night markets, and we've got a great farmers market in at least downtown Windsor. And I imagine Chatham basically grows the world. So I imagine there's lots happening there too. So, and we have Cookup. Cookup is a food incubator kind of lab. And I know there's some really cool things, but I totally agree, Joel. There's that notion. And sometimes I think it's a failure. Are we as Canadians afraid to embrace failure when we go into businesses, right? And I'm not sure if the US does that a bit better, but we did a failure night during our Founders Week, just to go back to we all fail. In fact, we learn more from failures than we do success sometimes. So Jason, I want to just maybe give you a quick second to chat on that, and then we're going to move to our next theme.
Yeah, I think everybody hit it on the head on this one. And Jenny, I really agree with you that there's just so many dynamics to making this happen between real estate, community, brand, as you guys have mentioned, to the story that we're telling. And it really comes down to that opportunity piece, which I think the good thing here in this region is that there's a ton of opportunity. There's a ton of talented people that can do things. I think we just need the capital and resources and kind of a team mentality to go forward and attract some more attention to that.
So if anyone has bags of money that is joining us today, we'll gladly take it to help support our great innovation tech community. All right, moving on. We've got another about 15 minutes before we get to Q&As. So I want to talk about future economy. And obviously, automotive is something that we know we've got roots in both regions. Agriculture, I think it's that underrated, in fact, very underrated of what is happening in Chatham-Kent and Windsor, Essex in terms of agriculture. Everyone thinks of us as an auto town. And then we've got a fintech company that's joined us with a monster growth plan ahead. So when we look at the future of tech, I'm curious to see what the group thinks in terms of what is the future of tech for mid-size, more rural communities. Are there trends you're seeing? Where can we maximize our efforts right now when we look at the future of technology? Again, looking at more rural, mid-sized cities.
I mean, I can quickly jump in. One of the interesting things that we're starting to see, not starting to see, but hitting the radar now, I should say, they've probably been working at it for a long time, is when you look at the Midwest in the US, right, which is kind of similar to Southwestern Ontario in terms of, they had a heavy automotive-based industry. They have had, very ag-focused communities. And I loved what Joel was saying, but I also think there's so much more room to go there, right? Like, it's not just about the farmers markets, it's about the ag tech that's happening, right? Like, there is this real change and renaissance that is happening. I mean, you saw it down in Leamington 10, 15 years ago with hydroponics and the greenhouses and everything else like that. And then it kind of felt like it fell off a cliff somewhere, right? In terms of the next iterations of what ag tech could look like, you know, and there is a real boom in the US Midwest in terms of these ag tech companies that are going digital and are helping improve, you know, crop outcomes and farming rotations and the economics of farming for whole communities, right? You see logistics companies, you know, tech-enabled logistics companies, you know, springing up because, of course, this pandemic has taught us something in particular about the supply chain and how vulnerable it is and how much more investment. Think about Southwestern Ontario in that very prime border corridor, you know, the logistics space, the ag tech space, and also now as you see sort of the demographic shift, and I know there's lots of work to bring young people sort of back into the communities, but especially with aging communities, there's this whole digital health play as well that could be leveraged in sort of that Southwestern Ontario corridor and Windsor and the Chathams of the world, right? And so, you know, I love, because, you know, my first job was corn detasseling, right? It was in the fields. That's, you know, that's what I did. Actually, I ran my own crew at 17, right? That was my first venture into being an entrepreneur. But the reality is it doesn't have to stop there, right? Like, there's all of these great ideas. And one of the things that I always find so frustrating is when I go home, like for Christmas, and I'm talking to people and like friends and family that are still there. They'll talk about all these ideas. Oh, do you know, if we could do this or if we could do that, here's what the outcome could be for the farmers, or here's how we could solve for this logistical issue. And I'm not joking. A month, 2 months later, I hear of a startup that has actually started that up someplace else. And I kind of think of, why do these ideas just die in the community? Why do I hear everybody talking about them and knowing that these are problems to be solved and they're valuable and important problems to be solved, but like no one's grabbing that by the horns in the community, right? And is it because of the resources? Is it because they don't know where to start? Is it because they don't know how to socialize it? Is it because they don't know how to get the funding? You know, what is it? So I just think there's this whole huge world of opportunity in Southwestern Ontario. And maybe it's about building the structure and framework to help support that. But like, think big, like no more playing small, think big.
And we're going to get to one of our last questions will be kind of like, what are those wish list projects, those big ideas? But before we get on to that, any other comments on, again, the future of tech for, you know, more rural, mid-sized cities?
I can chime in. I like what you're saying, Jenny, and that's a little bit of what I was thinking about. Like, especially when I think about agriculture, because I was connected to that when I was there. I don't think the companies in downtown Toronto, down on King Street, or even a lot of the ones in Kitchener, Waterloo, are thinking about that. But the fact is they should be thinking about that in Chatham-Kent. And you have access to the stakeholders, which are those farmers and people that are doing that. It's like, what problems do you have? And let's solve it for you. And then let's solve it for every other farmer, because they're probably in similar boats. But leveraging sort of those differentiators, the ability to work with people that are right in the community to solve their problems, and then how do you scale it up? So whether it's thinking about agriculture, whether it's thinking about differentiators, like down there's a lot of space, whether you're talking about land, whether you're talking about barns, it's like, hey, I'm going to, you know, start a software company that helps you to optimize your barn for whatever it is you're doing. Like, there's things that other people won't be thinking about that when someone gets into, we're going to say 5 years from now, oh, I didn't realize how big that market was. When you think about vertical SaaS, like even what our company's doing right now, lots of companies do payroll, Ceridian and Kronos and all these different companies, but it's like no one does it for the entertainment industry in a really good way for like music videos or commercials where someone's an employee for one day. How do you onboard them? How do you calculate the union wages and stuff? Like, that is vertical SaaS, and that's what we should think about in Chatham-Kent or Windsor, in the sense of, hey, what do we want to solve? We have these problems already here. or the story around, hey, what are we doing on the environmental side? Hey, we have clean energy here. We're starting a battery plant. How do we pull this together so we can tell a story and start building an expertise that then we can rapidly scale up for other areas? So that's what I think is, don't try and be somewhere else. I think about, because I'm a good Canadian hockey, like the Las Vegas, their team, or Nashville, their team, they shouldn't have successful NHL teams, but they do because they've differentiated. Here's how we do hockey games in Las Vegas with all the buzz and the lights and stuff, and Nashville's about the music and stuff. It's like, yeah, let's learn from Waterloo and from Toronto and from the Valley and stuff like that. But Chatham-Kent and Windsor shouldn't try and be that. It should be its own tech hub.
I agree. I couldn't agree more. I was like, well, be Waterloo, Toronto. And I say, we don't want to be them. We've got completely different assets. And it's not to say they're not great, but I look at, you want to differentiate yourself like a business, right? So what's our core differentiators? And I think we've talked a lot about them. Joel, or I think Joel, you're on mic, so go ahead.
So one thing here is, we have to be realistic. What I've learned is that you can build an amazing mousetrap. However, if you don't have investors, that'll fizzle out and burn out. Unless you're doing something that is low risk, low initial investment, like I'm talking about with regards to pop-ups and shared kitchens and things like that. Things that are more practical. I think in Windsor we end up looking at our neighbors to the south, and we end up starting to try to do what they're doing, and we get excited about the buzz things and the trends, but we can't tell our entrepreneurs in Windsor that they're going to create the next big Shopify without an investment pool that's incentivized to invest in Windsor, Essex. And unfortunately, we see these VCs in Toronto, and we have a lot of amazing investors over there, but they're not investing. They're not incentivized to invest in startups in Windsor, Essex. Until we have that investment, these are pipe dreams. We have to start small and allow them to make their own money, make $300,000 a year, and then they'll sell that company and they'll move on and iterate to the next bigger thing and jump like leapfrog. So in my mind, either we do that and we find a way to get investors into our region, angel investors, using something like angellist.com or a roll-up vehicle like that, or a syndicate, or a co-op of investors, or like in this case, just the battery example yesterday, big investor came in, right? Invested in our region. That's what changed the game. How are we going to get that? If we can't get that, I believe the future is the creator economy. And this is very low risk, very easy to get into. Creator economy is going to run the world in the next 10 years. We're talking about social commerce. It's totally free to start. You get a TikTok account, create a niche, drive your audience, and then take them down a funnel. That's how you start to make money in our region without borders. That's the future. I believe everyone in Windsor should start to think about how they can create their own economy, a creator economy, if they can't get investment. But I hope that changes. I really do hope that we can either drive investment somehow, incentivize investors to come in our region. If not, there's always creator economy.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of the stats saying how much the gig economy has grown over COVID, right, and the Great Recession, and we'll talk about that in our next segment. But Jason, I want to give you the last comment here. We talk about the future of tech. Maybe tell us, what is the future of Rocket Innovation Studios? What does your future look like, and how do you see this transforming our region?
Absolutely. And I think just to maybe go back on that point really quick too, one of the things that really benefited us coming over to Canada and starting our mission here was taking the time to invest and do the research on learning about the area, learning about the people, learning about the various and an abundance of culture. I think it's very easy for us as Americans too to maybe have a little bit of an arrogance and see Canada as just our backyard, and maybe we're just the same country, just divided by a river here in Detroit and Windsor. That's very not true. And we learned that through our research and working with a lot of our team members and bringing in experts. So I think when it started there, and then that led us to start seeing what is unique about this area. And I'm going to get to our point here, but this is one of the major things that we saw was that obviously there's great talent here left from this big boom from BlackBerry, from the Waterloo, from the GTA area. Obviously, there's more and more talent coming in. We also saw something that we were blocked from in America, which was these amazing international pipelines that these world-renowned universities have. So with that, that's really allowed us to, one, get us to the point where we're at, where we have almost 100 team members here working with us at Rocket Innovation Studio, and over 60 of them local in the area that can travel into our building. But really what the future looks like is, how do we keep expanding that? Because one, we've already hit the talent pool in the market and we're playing in it and we love it. Two, we're establishing these great pipelines with universities and colleges to make sure that we can keep building that future. And we're even spending time with high schools and others too, to start making that longer term investment. But I feel like the next piece is, how do we turn this into a true urban technology core? Have these things that we've been talking about, incubators and different investments, to attract the right talent down here to start creating this next gen of what is Windsor going to be. And I believe that's not only just folks that are in the tech space that want to move here and do something cool. I believe it's a lot of opportunity seekers as well. And just similar to Metro Detroit, we've had a ton of folks that all they've known growing up is automotive, and that's not bad in some cases, but sometimes people want a different flavor and a different opportunity. And coming over here, that was one of the first things that I noticed. It felt very similar to when I started my time with Quicken Loans when they first moved to Detroit in 2010, where there was so much buzz and excitement about something new being here. Somebody's taking a risk and putting something out there and investing, and it's attracting a lot of attention. And I feel like we can do that same thing here, and we can see even us grow our own population of talent that doesn't exist today by showing folks that there's a different path.
I love that. And Jason, as I said earlier, we can't wait to the grand opening, hopefully one day in the near future, if COVID doesn't come creeping back, for the community to check out your spaces. And
absolutely.
And what a perfect segue to talent. And I'd like to say we have an expert with us from talent. Jenny's going, no. But here's the thing. When I speak to, and my team speaks to our companies, our tech CEOs regionally, the word we hear is talent. I can't find it. The competition is obviously intensified with now remote abilities. You've got US companies coming in who are offering significantly more salary lines than, perhaps some of the Canadian companies have. So when we think about what's going to power the economy, I think the word talent, right? And in fact, the money will follow the talent. We see that even with VCs, right? With startups. So Jenny, I want to start with you. And with this war on talent, how do you think the region can compete in this, right? And I know there's been conversations about the affordability. Now you can kind of work from anywhere. From your perspective, where do you think our advantages are? And what should our leaders be thinking about right now?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a lot of advantages. And so, the first one, in Jason, I think you guys it sounds like you're doing a brilliant job with it, is look at the talent you currently have, and build those pipelines to access that talent. And that starts with schools, and it starts with mentorship, and it starts with internships, and creating that talent pipeline and creating an opportunity for that talent pipeline to stay in the community and or come back to the community. And so that's going to be a big piece of it. Definitely, I think another competitive advantage is living in Toronto and owning real estate in Toronto. Is even, I know everybody thinks in Windsor and Chatham-Kent that the prices are ridiculous. Let me tell you, they're still a bargain. And so it is certainly a competitive advantage, but it's not even just at the prices. It is a lifestyle too. And that's, again, going back to the branding and marketing theme with talent. Talent comes to stories. People want to be part of a story. And so, the notion of coming to a place where you will have not just, disposable income now, because it's not all locked up in real estate, but that you'll be able to enjoy all of these fabulous, wonderful things, a mild climate, wonderful outdoor life in lakes and rivers and everything else like that. So I think that's really important. I saw in the chat earlier, somebody had mentioned cultural communities. I think that's a big thing that's probably been ignored in the corridor too, to be honest with you. And that is, one of the great things that I love about a big city is there's always something going on, right? That you can engage with and enjoy. And whether it's a show or whether it's a farmer's market or, there's always something going on. And I know when I visit, sometimes I'm like, what's So something happening? Is there some place where I can go and talk to people, meet people? And so I think like creating you know those sorts of places so that those festivals, because this is a place that you want to be, that you could see yourself being. So I think all of those things, like and you know, when I talk about branding like that, it leads into what's called an EVP, or an employee value proposition, right? Like it is why. Like, why would you want to be here? Why would you want to start a business here? Why would you want to come and work here? And I think there is a very compelling EVP to be built on cost, on quality of life, on richness of life. I think there's some work to be done on the richness of life, to be frank. Sorry if I hurt anyone's feelings, but like I do think there's some work to be done there. And then I also think that and obviously creating those pipelines, right, to keep talent local. But I also think that there is like, I know so many talented people that I think there's an overlooked market in the area as well, like competent, talented people where there is not very clear mechanisms for upskilling. You know, they used to do it really well in factories, right? Like in terms of upskilling or retooling or getting certain levels of certifications. Like we almost need to continually be thinking about that, right? Like you saw this big boon in Toronto and other sort of major metropolitan areas where you could take like a 6-week intensive boot camp, you know, for coders or developers. And obviously you can still do that, like Lighthouse Labs or what have you, and Juno College. You can still do those online, obviously. But the reality is, you know, creating some of those more homegrown programs, maybe even sponsored by the Rockets of the world, right? To help give them a talent pipeline, but then everybody else can leverage sort of the growth of that talent. Like, why overlook the people that you have there? And then lastly, you know, people talk a lot about money, and let's just say with the lens that I have over such broad areas and regions, people will still vote to work someplace where they find meaning and purpose and community over dollars, right? I mean, absent, all of a sudden I'm going to make $300,000 more working for company Y. I mean, you know, you got to take the extremes out of it. But if you can create those things, and if you can focus on those things, then you can still win the war for talent, right? There's still an opportunity there to compete. And it is a fact that I see every single day, right? In advising startups, I see them win off Facebook. I see them win off, you know, hey, sure, go beat engineer number 5,242 at Facebook and have an opportunity to develop like this one little piece of their technology, or come here and learn firsthand what it's like to build a business from the ground up, or come here and get access to the full stack and have the real opportunity to ship regularly and really have an impact on what this product looks like going into the future. You just got to reframe the conversation. Branding and storytelling, they feel so easy, they feel so obvious, but I promise you, they will change the dynamic in the talent war immediately.
So I love your comment about upskilling, and I know Detroit has I know Quicken Loans was really involved in Grand Circus early, and I think they still are, as like a boot camp. We've got Southwestern Ontario Palette Skills, which is training people in tech sales and cybersecurity, a great upskilling program. And I know our continuous education programs are also looking at stuff. And then on the benefit side, I think we've seen such a shift in what people care about now with their careers, right? And actually, Matt, I'm going to pick on you for a second. One of our team members was looking at the Wrapbook's like talent page and really found it interesting how you were selling your company of like unpaid time off, like 401k. When you think, like, I'm not sure how involved you are in talent recruitment, and Jason will ask you the same question after, is like, what is drawing people to your company? Like, what is it that talent is caring about right now?
Yeah, I think, I mean, there's so many aspects to that. And I mean, it's what people are looking for. Like me, I was looking for a startup, like I was hired as the first product manager. So that's just what someone's looking for. I was looking for 100% remote, and that's what this is. But it was also, it's almost what you were talking about, Jenny, but people are excited. they're excited to be part of something. Like when I'm interviewing people, it's like they ask me, hey, why do you work here, or why do you want to work here? And it's like, because we're building something absolutely awesome. Like we have this slice that we're doing, and everyone's pulling in the same direction. It's not that we always agree and stuff like that, and that I can get behind. People are like, they care about it, and I've probably worked harder here than anywhere else because I'm so passionate about it. But the other is the values align, and that's something that I think we have to look at in Chatham-Kent as far as being inclusive, you know, because I haven't seen always Chatham-Kent being inclusive. Like, I mean, our internal metrics as far as hiring people that are not white or not male or not, you know, they're really aggressive, but it's because we need different voices in because we know we're stronger as a company when we have those different voices, you know, so that kind of thing. So, I mean, Wrapbook's doing really well. And I mean, the other thing is, I mean, it goes back to what we're talking about with Chatham-Kent in general, or any of these places. It's about the snowball. You know, good people attract more good people. And I mean, it just keeps going forward, but it's also holding on to that culture of, hey, this is what we do. We do whatever we need to get it done. I mean, we're a big, well, not big, we're a up and coming, really fast growing tech company that just raised 100 million. And you wouldn't believe behind the scenes. I mean, I'm doing data entry. Why? Because it's a startup. It's a startup that some stuff you just have to do manual. But I mean, who cares? Because we're doing it. Hey, I'm a product manager that's done this for lots and lots of years and stuff. And it's like, who cares? Let's just get it done, and then we'll iterate it. And then when it hurts bad enough for me, then I'll put it on my team's roadmap to build the feature to automate it, kind of thing, you know? So that kind of thing. I just think, what's the story that's being told within Chatham-Kent, and what are the differentiators around quality of life and stuff like that? What are the things? So those are the things that'll attract people. But you have to also watch out for the opposite. What are the things that are going to repel people? Like if they're reading stories about people are chopping down trees as fast as they can in Chatham-Kent because this new law is coming into effect, and it's like, oh, that doesn't align with the wind turbines and stuff like that. So how can you sort of get everyone sort of going in the same direction to get more people excited about being part of building the tech community in Chatham-Kent or Windsor, Essex, like the whole corridor, you know? So it's both sides of it. What attracts people, what will repel people, and who do we want to attract here to help build this next phase of the evolution of the community?
I agree. And I think there's some generational challenges we have as someone who stayed in the region. I think, you know, how we see things is a bit different than an older generation. And I think as we start to see more younger people in leadership roles that are, you know, just, again, it's not to say, you know, young versus old, but I think there's something to be said about this new generation and just the way we think and the risks we take. But I've got a time check here from our wonderful event producer, but I want to ask Jason, you are powered by technology. You are building a company. What's been your, you know, how are you winning at the War of Talent as Rocket Innovation Studios? And I know you about it already.
Yeah, I think it's multiple different angles that we're taking at. I think one is the branding piece and telling the story. So obviously Quicken and Rocket in the US is a very big brand, and Canada doesn't have as much exposure. So that's something that we're trying to do to tell the story there. So working with our marketing team and our talent brand strategy, but also just word of mouth. And like you said, Matt, that snowball effect, right? Once you get somebody good in, and then you find a mentor maybe that they're working with to come in, it just becomes a really great avenue of success. And we've seen that a lot. I think also some things that we've had to put in place just as a demand from technology going forward is that folks want to be seen as an investment, not a cost. And I believe that's a model that a lot of folks in the modern age are shifting to from maybe older working environments. Obviously, they need the opportunity to do something and own something and have purpose, like you mentioned, Jenny, as well. Flexibility and work-life balance is key, right? Like we've transitioned over this pandemic to learn as a world on how we're going to move forward and work differently going into the future. And I don't think a lot of people are going back. So I feel like as companies, we need to learn how to work with that, be flexible, also encourage and promote the importance of having on-site opportunities and hybrid settings too, especially if we want to renovate and bring more foot traffic downtown and do amazing things like that to spur the community. And then really the last thing is self-development. We've seen a ton of folks really take charge of their own career over the last 10, 15 years in the tech space that want to make sure that while they're here doing amazing things, they're also developing themselves and making themselves a better person too. So that's something that as in the technology space, we're always constantly looking at all these different angles. And these are the hot topics right now to keep attracting talent here.
Awesome. Just on the topic of talent, we do have at WeTech a tech jobs board. So if you're watching and you have a job board within the region, feel free to share it for free on there. And I know Rocket Innovation is hiring. I imagine Wrapbook is also hiring. And I'm not sure, Matt, if there's other remote opportunities at Wrapbook, but feel free, Matt, to share it in the chats. And Joel, if anyone's hiring, feel free to put it in the chat. I just want to ask one quick rapid fire questions before we move it over to Q&A, because I do realize we're a bit over schedule. But if you had one thing that you wanted to bring to this region, the wish list, just one thing, rapidly, what would it be? I'll start with Jenny. One thing.
Start with community and space. It'll get everything else rolling.
Okay, love it. Matt?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, any event with free coffee or a free lunch is good to bring people together. And then the interesting topic, which you already have the people there, that'll get things rolling.
Jason, what do you wish for?
I hope that we have a true tech hub here in the future with an incubator and development programs for folks that want to get into the tech space.
Awesome. And Joel, your wish list.
I don't think we have enough time.
Okay, what's top on the list?
I think let me summarize and just say I think we need to make it fun again. Let's make Windsor fun again. I have fond memories of Detroit, Windsor River when they had the Red Bull Air Race. That was the pinnacle of the town, I think. And you know, metaphorically, things kind of went down from there. But I hope we attract more activities on that river, take advantage of that river, take advantage of the partnership more, and bring back our nightlife. And let's not be ashamed of it. And let's bring back the history of the town to what it was in the late 1800s and the whiskey boom that it was known for.
All right, more fun. Well, we'd love to make this event actually a big, giant tech homecoming regional event. Detroit does it. It works out really well. So we hope to maybe spark this into something much bigger. Okay, well, thank you. And I'm going to just do quick Q&A. If there's any questions from the audience, feel free to put them into the Q&A. I'm just going to take a quick look at the chat to make sure I haven't missed anything. All righty. Feel free again. I'll just give it a quick second. I do have, okay, so we've got one question. So often tech companies go unnoticed in less tech known regions. How would a company region get more visibility? I don't imagine, I mean, Jason, I know you're in it, but for anyone else, I guess, you know, it is tough, right? We talked about Windsor, Chatham, we're very much manufacturing, automotive, and here we have this fintech company, or again, any company for that matter, that's trying to get attention.
Yeah, I really think this comes back to telling that story and being strategic around how you promote yourself as well. I don't think it's always just about how much money you can spend to get that attention. Obviously, that helps in a lot of these cases too, just to bring attention. But Joel, what you were mentioning earlier, there's a lot of strategies out there to leverage social media and a lot of different websites that we can use. And I think we've seen some success there too. But at the end of the day, kind of going back to Matt's point too, we really need people to have that feeling and that emotional connection to the brand to really start telling that story and promoting it as well. So part of it is time and experience, but a lot of it is also being strategic on how you can use the tools at your resources to get the name out there.
And I think, I hate using corporate buzzwords, but I will anyway, becoming a thought leader. like in the sense of we get a lot of people, we don't spend that much on marketing at our company, and we have a fair amount of money as far as the recent fundraising. And it's like we have a couple good bloggers that are helping out our customers. Hey, what are the compliance rules around contractors in California, or loan outs, or what are the different types of corporations, or union rules, or these kinds of things. And they come for the blog, and then hopefully they stay for our product kind of thing. But it's sort of like, and that was all sort of bootstrapped by one guy in the beginning, and then he hired a great writer and she's awesome. And it's sort of like, that's what our customers care about, but we're not actually solving all of those problems. But I mean, then it's connecting with the brand, we're connecting with the problems we're having and stuff like that. So whether it's a company within the corridor we're talking about, or the actual area, hey, we're the leaders in agribusiness or agri-tech, and we can talk about it and we write about it and people come to read about that stuff, and then it's getting the connection and talking with them about, hey, what else we can do for you and stuff like that. So it is markety, but I mean, it works, it's real, it actually helps people. That's why people sign up for newsletters, because it's real content, you know.
I totally agree with both of those suggestions. And I'd also add to that, to keep the train of thought going, is God, I'm going to use a word I hate, Matt, now, and that is hustle, right? Like, you know, do your research. Like, what events should you be at? What trade shows should you be at? Who should you be meeting with? Are there VCs that work and invest in your space? How about in angel investing? Why not go out and do a couple of pitches just to get it sort of under your belt, get sort of name recognition, right? Like there's tons of guerrilla marketing, you know, tactics as well, in terms of, you know, cute, kitschy ideas you can do in terms of just sort of more broadly getting out there. But you know what? Sometimes it's even just hard work and doing the awful thing of having to go out there and meet a whole bunch of people. And if you just keep saying your name a lot, you know, people will start to think, oh, there was a company that does that, right? So all of those really fundamental ideas. And like I said, add some good old elbow grease to it.
I couldn't agree more. And I think one thing we need to do better of is there's an urban rural or like divide, right? Digital divide, right? I feel it even in Windsor, like a lot of things happen in Toronto, but be at those events, go to the Collision events, go to the Elevate, go to South by Southwest, go to CES, get there. They're looking for speakers, they're looking for content, and this is where the industry is going. So I'd love to see us be on the stage more often talking about what we're doing here.
And the great thing is it's a new story, right? Like if I get so excited about it, it's like a new angle. Like I've been to all of these conferences. I haven't heard this story. I think there's a really interesting narrative that can happen around sort of this revitalization. You saw it a little bit with Detroit. Detroit was on some of those stages on creating sort of this new economy after they'd been decimated and all of these sorts of things. But like, I think there was a really neat angle that this corridor.
I will say on a smaller scale, I've landed a few jobs by just sitting in there and talking about corn detasseling. Like it blows people's mind because they've never been in a field and they've never known about male and female corn and what it takes to get things done. And it's true though. And I mean, that's what it would be at these conferences, because we all tell the same stories within, you know, the Kitchener, Waterloo, Toronto corridor kind of thing. So to bring in the outside voice, that differentiation, it means so much. People want to hear, they lean in.
Yeah. 100%.
Joel, I'll let you get the last thought, and then we'll wrap things up.
Me?
Yeah. Do you have any other comments?
So I think I would like to pick on the word corridor for a moment. I hate that word. I think, you know, the definition of corridor is a long passage in a building that leads to another room. I think we need to start thinking about Windsor as a boutique. You know, the difference between a small shop and a boutique is a small shop inside of a larger one. And to me, what that really means is that, you know, essentially it's a metaphor for being sort of purposeful, intentionally communal, you know, and I think that's what Windsor used to be. And I think we need to get back to that. It's a lot of what Barrie is. Wasaga Beach, embraces what it is. I think Windsor needs to embrace what we are. We're not a small shop. We are a boutique. Our region isn't a corridor. It's a region. And I think the language matters because it's a subconscious, dig, I think, at our region. None of the speakers here are intentionally doing that. It's what we call our region. But I think it's just something we need to think about in terms of branding of our area.
Yeah. Perhaps I'll just make a closing comment. One of the things that I think when I look at, again, Detroit is so visibly easy to look at, but Dan Gilbert, Penske's, the Illiches, these are entrepreneurs that help build the community, right? So I think when we look at, how do we build our regions, there's some amazing entrepreneurs. I know Chatham, there's some awesome ones. The Marentet family, for example, comes to mind. We really got to, these ecosystems need to be led by entrepreneurs, not government, not municipalities. And I think sometimes we sit back waiting for these, more corporate environments to lead these. No, they're led by you entrepreneurs. So that's something we always want to be in the back seat, right? We don't want to be leading this, we want to support it and, embrace it and push it forward. But ultimately, we know that these ecosystems work when they're led by entrepreneurs. So with that, thank you so much. I feel like we could talk for another hour, and I realize you're all very busy people. So thank you for giving us 15 more minutes of your time. I know we're over schedule, but the good news is we've extended our time here on Remo. So if you do want to stick around to network again, the platform will be open till 1:45. So again, big Windsor, Essex, Chatham-Kent, thank you to our panelists. So please give them a round of applause in the chat. And again, this is something I know you're going to check on Twitter, all of your great nuggets being shared online. And for anyone that wants to relive this, again, we will share the link with you next week. But before we say goodbye, again, a few other, announcements to make. We do have a quick survey for you. So if you just go in the chat, we want to make sure when we do these events like Tech Week, you enjoy them. It helps us better plan next year. So if you can take 2 seconds to fill in our event survey to let us know how we did today and how you enjoyed it, that would be great. Tech Week is still going on. In fact, tomorrow we have our Tech Mobility Day, where we're going to talk to Victoria Prouse, who is with Michigan Central, which is a mobility innovation district in Detroit's historic Michigan Central Station. So that beautiful train station that was kind of desolate for a long time is now being powered by Ford and being transformed to a mobility district. So tomorrow morning, you can check out everything else for Tech Week at www.techweek.com or techweekyqg.com. And also throughout the week, we are announcing our 2022 Tech Award winners powered by Tech Savvy. So again, we'll be announcing another winner today and again, all throughout the week. And lastly, just like last year, we can't stop this conversation. Again, we need to continuously interact with our alumni, our expats, former residents, to come back, to invest. And again, we realize we can't attract everything back, but there's so much we can learn from talent like all of you today. We can get involved, mentor, volunteer. In fact, I would imagine we'll reach out to all of you, seeing how you can kind of plug back into the ecosystem. And it's funny, I'm not even joking, this is my last line. And that's one of the easiest things you can do is be a megaphone to the stories, the talent, the entrepreneurs, and the innovation that is powering a region. That is here. So I'm not very aligned with this storytelling. So with that, on behalf of WeTech and our partners, Invest Windsor, Essex, and Chatham-Kent Economic Development, thank you, panelists. Thank you, attendees. And again, please continue networking, and we look forward to seeing you again in person real soon. So thank you, everyone. And we'll go back into networking mode to the panelists if you have to leave. Again, thank you, thank you, thank you.